We're going to talk today about, I'm going to share my screen. We're going to talk about 135. Have you guys heard of 135 today, before? Anybody heard of a 135?
Yes.
Cool. Okay. Yes. And then I know I sent this out to y'all in an email. Did you get my email? The email had an attachment like this on it. You could probably even pull it up on your phone if you were pulled over to the side of the road. Anyways, we're going to be referencing this. Before I get started, I do want to give you guys access to a resource that I have recently created for y'all that will help answer some of your more rudimentary, like contract building or MLS listing questions. And that resource is a YouTube page full of videos that I have started to create and compile so that you can answer questions that you may have on things like how to add documents and clauses in .loop. You don't have to call me anymore. It's right here. Only 3 minutes and 24 seconds. How to input your listing in the MLS. This is a great one because the first time I did it, I needed help. The second time I did it, I needed help. The third time I did it, I started to get a little bit better. Fourth time I did it, cool. And then by the fifth time I did it, I probably had it down. But this is a good reference so that you can get it right your first time. And that's not telling you guys that I don't want you to contact me or reach out. I'm just trying to make myself available to you guys 24 hours. And I'm able to do that through this. So if you guys have questions above and beyond what I'm covering in these quick videos, then please feel free to holler at me. But a lot of the times, if you're going to ask me how to, what listing documents do I need, I'm going to refer you to this video first. How to sound like a local expert, 2 minutes and 46 seconds. That seems pretty easy. And I get to learn how to sound like a local expert. So the station on YouTube is Trailblazing Real Estate. If you want to write that down or what have you. Sound good?
Those are on YouTube?
These are on YouTube. I've done these through Loom. So you'll see my beautiful little face in the lower left corner, and then you'll see the content that I'm referring to with all my clicks and where I go on the actual video. I'm only utilizing .loop as of this point. I know that in the future, we may go over full-fledged to DocuSign. And when that happens, I will update these videos. Does that sound fair? Cool. And as you guys keep asking me questions, you guys are really the content creators if you think about it, because anytime you guys ask me a question, I want to answer that for everyone. And so I immediately jump on and do a quick Loom, and then we upload it. So this will be ever changing and always accessible to y'all. Cool? Wonderful. All right. Can you all see my screen? Okay. I see head nods. This is a 135, guys. A 135, what does this say right here? GPS. What's GPS mean in 2020? Somebody answer.
Global Positioning System.
Okay, wow, you went literal. What's another word for it? Like, how would you explain what GPS is? Navigation, Chelsea says. I love that. What else? What other term? Directions. Good stuff. So what this 135 is aimed at is gaining a course of action in order to get to where you want to be. Why might that be important for us right now as we're planning 2021? I've got a special guest with me here today. So Mr. Broker Joe Jansen is here with me, and I would assume, Joe, have you done a 135 before?
I have.
Okay. So why would you do that? Why would you take time to think about the future?
Well, it's like preparing your meal for dinner. You can't eat your dinner unless you prepare it first. So you're really setting up your plans, your game plan, so to speak, for next year. And your last quarter of 2019 is really when you need to be putting your program together for all of 2020, I'm sorry, for 2021. Every year, what I've done, and I've been more diligent lately, is that the last quarter of the year, we actually put together a program for 12 months, all next year, from your touches to maybe events you're going to put on. But you have to map it out, because as you get busy, you'll forget to do things. But if it's in your map, if it's, as they always say, if it's not in your calendar, it's not going to get done, at least for me. So you need to go ahead and pre-program everything. But a GPS actually gives you navigation, as you said earlier, to get through it.
That's a great description. Good analogy too. I would say that when I think of navigation, I think of getting to a destination. So if I'm going to drive to Washington, D.C., do I just jump in my car and drive? Or do I try to find directions first? I could probably get in my car and drive, and I may eventually get there. I would likely get lost along the way, though. So what directions do is they give you step-by-step things that you can do to get there. So 135, although it's not something I've barked on a lot in the introductory classes that we've had here, it is something that I do want us to really pay attention to. I also attached in this email a copy of a 135 that I actually have started to put together. So I'll reference that here soon. I hesitate to do so, though, I will say that, because I don't want you just to copy and paste what I'm doing. Because what I'm doing is not what I was doing 3 years ago. We all going to have different priorities. So this here at the top says GPS roadmap to meet your goals. At the top of this somewhere, you can put this in Google Drive. You can print this out. I know, Chelsea, you have it printed out so you can mark it up. At the top of this, you should have one big thing. That's your one. Below that, you see 3 priorities. There's your 3. Guess how many strategies we have for each? Somebody tell me. 5. Brilliant. You guys are good. 1, 3, 5. Okay, that's where the numbers come from. This is otherwise referred to as a GPS. So if you hear, anybody in leadership ever talking about those 2 things, this is what we're referring to. It's basically your roadmap to success. So my goals are complete. Let's get this out. My goals are different than what your goals are and should be. You could probably do this with different aspects of your life as well, or different businesses you're running. So for instance, I've got one for my production business, and I'm going to have one for my coaching business, because I want to have goals. I want you all to stop and understand this one concept. If nothing else, when you leave this call, you are operating a business. You could be operating a multi-million-dollar business. Currently, we're just getting up off the ground, right? So how do we dream really big and get to where we want to be? Maybe that's a multi-million-dollar business. Maybe that's owning 25 investment properties. Maybe that's, I don't know, becoming an advocate for fair housing in your community. There's all kinds of different goals that we each individually have. That's what makes this group so beautiful, and diversity in general. But at the end of the day, you've got to have a business strategy to get there. I think a lot of times people get into real estate not understanding that it's going to be a business. Even if you're on a team, you're still running your own business, right? Joe, I'm sure that you encourage so Joe for those of you who don't know Joe runs the Jansen team, and he's got a really great book of business and has forever now. He's been in the industry for 85 years. He doesn't look that old, but he is. And, but he owns a team. And when you've got team members, I'm pretty sure that I'm not putting words in your mouth when I say that you encourage them to drum up their own leads in their own business, correct?
Oh, yeah. My job is to help them create business for themselves, but the best way to sustain in this business is build your own book of business, whether you're a single agent or whether you work on a team. But yeah, you need to sit, they have programs now where it's a lot easier to follow, but yeah, you need to build your own book of business. I know some agents that have gotten in the business and they're relied on solely referrals from other companies and stuff, relocation companies, and you can't sustain long like that. If you build your own business, your database is the most important thing. And that's where you're going to make your money.
Love it. Thank you, Joe. You didn't realize you'd be participating this much, did you?
No, I didn't.
Well, this is something we like, is to hear other vantage points. And that's why we have these calls, is to hear what each person's going through. So as you have questions about this, just please raise them. You know, your voice is good here. I'm going to go into mine just to give you an example. Would that be helpful? All right. So you can see mine at the top here. My main goal, my one big thing, is to perform 80 transactions. I'm a big fan of making this whole page full of smart plans. Have you guys heard of that term before? Smart plan? Caitlin, you're shaking your head. Dawn, you're shaking your head. Does anybody know what SMART stands for? Casey, you're a smart guy. What's it stand for? Do you know?
Sales. Oh God, what is it?
Nope.
Sales. No.
Can anyone help us out? What's the S stand for? Good. Y'all gonna learn something. So write it down. Specific.
Oh
Each
yeah.
goal should be specific, not loose. So if I was to write down my one big thing is to grow my business this year, is that specific at all? Not one bit. So 80 is pretty specific. M, anyone know what that stands for? Thank you. Julie from across the hall says measurable. Can I measure 80? Yes, it's black and white. It either is or it isn't. We're not, as a business owner, I'm not going to give myself any excuses for not hitting my number. If I just said grow my business, I could have all kinds of excuses. Oh, well, COVID hit and yada, yada, yada. No, that's not an excuse.
Achievable.
There you go. Can't KC. A, achievable. What's R stand for? Somebody look it up. I don't think it's realistic. Now you've got me tongue-tied here. What's the R stand for? What's the R stand for? It's not realistic. Repeatable. Yes. Repeatable. And then lastly, T, time bound. My time binding here would be for the year of 2021. So by the time 2022 starts, God, isn't that gross? We're talking about 2022. I feel so old. Michael, do you feel old?
I don't feel that old, but
You shouldn't, because you're 18, damn it.
I feel old.
So, oh, R could also be relevant.
Yeah, not just.
Okay,
In today's market.
I like that.
Relevant.
I like repeatable better. I like repeatable because it's systematized, right? So if you understand what a SMART goal is, hopefully you just learned something specific, measurable, etc. Then you're going to approach this differently than just thinking really big and loosely. If we're thinking big and loosely, we're not being the operators of our business that we need to be. Okay. So my number one here, my one big thing is 80 transactions. Within that, I have 3 priorities that should, if I can hit the strategies below, lend themselves real well to me meeting my goal of 80 transactions. Okay, now yours, remember, this is all relative. be thinking, what are my goals? If you need to unplug me there. Do you guys have some thoughts in your heads about what your goals might be? Something maybe differently than transactions? Somebody speak up and share, please. Do you have something that's bubbling up to the surface that you're thinking of in terms of what your one big thing would be for this upcoming year? What is it?
40.
Okay. Well,
Josh, I
Chelsea
got
said
one.
40. Casey, what are you saying?
Well, my one big thing is the horsepower farms, because that came online. So I've got 64 units that I'm trying to sell.
Okay, so your thing, right? So horsepower farms is your baby, and you want to see that thing, I'm assuming, fully sold.
Correct.
27, 28. Okay, what else could there be aside from sales?
Mine's time.
What are you thinking of in terms of time? I love where you're headed.
Well, because since, I'm still a full-time nanny. So hopefully I'm planning on end of this year quitting and doing real estate full-time.
That's a good goal to have. It's a great goal to have. So within that, and I'll end the open dialogue there. Within that, there's going to be 3 priorities, maybe 3 things that are going to rise to the top that are going to be the most important things in your mind to help you get there. Okay. For me, I wrote down just what Joe had said earlier. Your database is the key to success. Have you guys heard that before? Have you heard me ever say something to the effect of being successful in real estate is who you know, and if you know more people, you'll be more successful? Yes, you have. You all attend very regularly, and that is the one mantra that I try to live by. So if it's my one priority, if it's my number one priority, there's some numbers that are going to correlate here, because remember, I'm being very specific and measurable. I want to grow my database to 1,500. I'm currently about half that. But again, I've done this practice with you before. You pull out your phone, you go to your contacts, and you scroll all the way to the bottom if you're on an iPhone. And if you're not on an iPhone, I have no idea what to tell you, Chelsea. But if you find out how many contacts you have on your phone, well, if we're thinking strategically, that should also be the number of contacts you have in your database. It's people that know you. It's people that you know. It's people that likely could give you business over the course of the year. There's a stat that I heard recently that 6% of your database will either need to buy, sell, or know somebody that will need to buy or sell real estate this year, every single year. So if I do the math, if I were to grow my database to 1,500 and actually interact with it, 6% of 1,500 is 90. I could get 90 transactions. I could beat my whole goal just by dealing with this one priority. So as I say that, I'm thinking, okay, well, how then, because we're being very specific, measurable, actionable, repeatable, and time bound within this next year, how can I make that happen? And these are just 5 things that came up to in my head. And there's one huge thing that I forgot. And I'm going to ask you guys what that is after I'm done with 1 through 5 here. So number 1, I like to have fun while doing business. Do you all like to have fun in your lives? Yes. I'll just answer that for y'all. Casey, what do you do for fun? What's your hobby?
Gardening.
Gardening. How could you make gardening? Let's all help him. How could you make gardening a resource for you to grow your database? Oh man, community garden. What if you started a community garden? What if you did a plant swap? Good job, Brian. What if you started a Facebook closed group page about, or a public page about gardening and fun photos? Dude,
Yeah, because I'm just doing like photos of my flowers for on Instagram and stuff like that. It's the personal side of it, but yeah, I need to do more with it.
Dude, I saw a photo. It was a yellow flower. I don't even know what it was, and it was a
Yeah,
gorgeous photo. So you've clearly got a skill and a passion for it. Why not turn that into business? What else? Dawn, what do you like to do? I mean, you're muted, but I can answer this for you. You like to be involved in like PTO. You like to be involved in a lot of your kids' stuff. Does that sound fair?
Absolutely. I think volunteering. That's kind of my first shoulder I've gotten.
That seems to be a pretty organic way to grow your database, right? Because every time I've ever volunteered, I've met some new people.
Yes, absolutely.
And so if you were to reverse engineer that and say, well, I'd like to meet, if I want to grow by 750 contacts, I'd like to meet 100 of them through volunteering. Well, then you can reverse engineer that and say, well, if I want to do 100, then I should probably maybe do one event a month and try to aim for, let's say 10 people per event that you get. That's being really specific, and that's thinking about your business and how you can grow it. So for me, I really like to have social events. And so I want to have fun doing what I do. So I'm going to hold 4 events next year. Over the course of 2020, COVID has completely ruined all of my plans that I had to hold events this year. I had planned on a Topgolf event around the time that we would be at Muirfield. I had planned on a March Madness event, like a St. Patrick's Day type thing. Well, as you can obviously tell, 2020 dashed those things to bits. So we had to pivot. And so we pivoted to do some things event-wise that were still exciting, but we could do without having to interact in person. So things like doing a reverse bold 100, where I told you guys, like, we got 100 people to call us. And we did some giveaways. It was really fun. Katie was there. And I look forward to the next time we get to do this. We got partnerships and stuff from vendors, and it was a blast. And we drummed up some business. I just had a fall family photo session. Well, we were easily able to stay 6 feet away from each other during that. So you just have to kind of pivot. If something happens in the course of the year to throw your plan out the window, you just got to pivot. You can't just completely walk away from your plan and then just say, well, 2020 ruined it. I'm going to only do 40 transactions. If you're a business owner like me, that's not going to satisfy you. So other things that I put down, I want to refine my social media systems and daily post strategy. So that's pretty specific. It's a daily post, and it's aimed at creating systems around that. So it's pretty specific. I could definitely get more specific, and I'll show you guys how we do that next. But ensure an ROI of 150% is hit on Zillow. That's very specific. It's a number, black and white. Continue to attend every church event I can. So for me, the spiritual side of things is very important. And because I'm a part of that community, it has been my #1 most effective resource in my business of referrals and repeat customers. People know me, people trust me. I've built relationship and rapport, and so they continue to come back to me. What groups can you get included in? Dawn is a great example. Dawn, you're in how many different organizations and groups, PTOs and all that?
Quite a few volunteer groups. So between our church, I started a nonprofit. I just reached out this week to a new Delaware free store, and I'm going to be doing a lot with them. That was fun. I met a lot of new people through that. So it's really just a lot of outreach in the community, the PTO. So as many volunteer facilities that I can find, Mom's Foundation, and get plugged into, I love doing that.
We just need to get you more at this point. And it comes over time. It's not immediate. And that's another thing we got to get through our heads. Some of this stuff is a long play, like Facebook leads, right? Some of those are a long play. We've got to nurture them along for a while. It's the same in our personal lives. I've got maybe 10 people that I would say are some of my best friends. Well, I know that they're not all ready to sell right this minute, but maybe one of them next year. And so I need to nurture that relationship and foster that with them so that they remember me when it's time to sell. It's all the relationship. But what I'm getting at here is when you're starting to think of strategies to hit your goals, think of stuff that you're going to actually do. That's important to be realistic. The R does kind of come into play as realistic as well. Are you going to actually do it? Or is it something that you just can't stand doing? If you're not a person that likes calling for sale by owners, don't put that as part of your plan. Do yourself a credit, because at the end of the day, if you look at that and you keep seeing that you're not doing it, you're going to feel like you're failing. Real estate and owning your own business is just as much mental, in my opinion, as it is actually hitting the ground, hitting the pavement out there. If you can amp yourself up each day to go do the things that you like to do anyways, and you can form it into business, you're going to be a lot happier than if you have to do the things you hate. Last thing that I wrote down was take over a neighborhood through farming. And something I've been reluctant to do, honestly, because I feel like it's old school. And I'm just speaking transparently here. I see people with ownership in certain neighborhoods and it pisses me off. Every time I drive by another realtor sign, it pisses me off. Joe, when I see your sign in my neighborhood, it pisses me off. But I have no one to blame but myself. How do I anticipate these people going with me as their realtor if I'm not doing something to stay in front of them all the time? And so I have no one to blame but myself. So I'm going to plant a stake in the ground somewhere and say, this is mine. And I'm going to spend the money and the time I'm going to invest in this neighborhood and in building relationships here so that I don't get pissed off when I drive through that neighborhood anymore. So you see my 5 strategies here. Is there anything that stands out that maybe I forgot in my haste to get this together, like of growing a database? Anything that you guys can think of that you might add or take away, whatever. This is a conversation. Or anything that you would do personally in your own. Maybe that's a better way to ask the question. Michael, you have like 80 contacts in command, right?
Yeah, something like that.
So how do you intend to get from point A to point B?
Facebook ads, open houses.
Great. I love those. What about y'all? Let's share ideas now, guys. Joe, you have 1 million people in your database. How are you going to grow yours?
I'm going to continue to work on the database I have. I think I make phone calls to, actually I used to not make, I don't like home calls. I have to have a reason to call people. So I've actually started picking up the phone and calling people that I've sold homes to that are in my database. And I've talked to them and I just, hey, how's it going? Blah, blah, blah. And if you know of anybody, and I pick up probably 3-4 names a week that I can put in the database. It doesn't sound like a lot, but you pick up 3 or 4 an average a week. And then one week you might do 2, one week you might do 8. Anybody you talk to, you can drop into your database. But phone calls for me have been something I used to, one, I don't like doing, but I found reasons to call them and to say, hey, how's it going? I talk about the interest rates. Some people, you know, they'll make fun of me. They'll say, oh, I haven't heard from you in 10 years. And you're now calling me. I said, yeah, I was in jail and I got out of I got back out of jail and I'm starting real estate again. Well, they start laughing. Then they start having conversations with me. But you know,
You wouldn't last a minute in jail.
no, I wouldn't. But you have to come up with something because that's my personality. But to just come up and, you know, say, hey, Josh, how's it going? Do you have anybody thinking about buying or selling? That's not really what it's about. I mean, when you get people on the phone, I would say real estate wise, you might talk 20-25% real estate. The other 70-75% is more of a personal touch.
Yeah, I love that. Thanks for sharing. So Some of us are a little shy to make phone calls, right? Hey, Daniela, have a seat if you'd like. We've got a new agent to the office joining us. So how can we bridge that gap? How can we have a reason or a purpose to call people? We're talking about growing our database, and that's a great way that Joe suggests. That's the lowest hanging fruit that you've got is people that already know and like you. Calling those people and asking them eventually for the referral. But how, it's 2020, that's a hint. How can we be contacting our database? Not in person, Brian says. What's a reason to call people right now? Check on their health. Mental health, physical health, exactly. So what if you just did care calls? We called them care calls in March, April, May, June, July, August, September, and now. So it doesn't stop. And if anything, I think people would really appreciate the call now that we're going on to a year of this crazy crap, right? To say, hey, it's been a long time. How are you doing? Are you still hanging in there? Is there anything I can help you with? That's providing really good value. And if you're struggling with what to say after that, we've gone over a method before that can help us have conversations. Does anybody remember? It's a 4-letter acronym.
So,
It's a car brand.
Ford.
Gee whiz, guys. Y'all need to take better notes. Okay, so what does the F stand for? Chelsea? Family. You ask them, hey, how's your family doing? How are the kids with school and stuff like that? What's the O stand for? I'm gonna let somebody out there in Zoom land answer that.
Occupation.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Occupation. So let's talk about your job. Hey, is work still going well for you? Inevitably, when you ask somebody else about their job, what are they likely going to ask you about yours? The theory of reciprocity, you guys have heard me say that before. When you give somebody something, they want to give something back to you. It's just human nature. So when you ask somebody about theirs, they'll ask you about yours. They'll ask you about your family after you ask them. Your goal is to just, I don't think you even need to belabor the point and say, oh, well, realtor, real estate, all that stuff. But just say, hey, business is going really well. That's not honestly why I called you, but while we're talking about it, market's going really well. I'm sure you've heard. Know of anyone that needs to buy or sell? Downtime, we really need listings. You can kind of make a joke out of it too. Like, have fun with it. Be yourself. What does R stand for? Recreation. Don't we all love to talk about having fun? JC, you kind of perked up when you started talking about gardening and taking pictures of flowers. It excites us, right? It's a fun conversation to have. So when we're calling people, don't make it all just so business and formal. Give yourself 10 minutes with a person if you need to. Now, Dawn, maybe give yourself 10 minutes and then you got to cut it off. I know how you roll.
I know.
10 minutes turns into 30 for you, and then you wasted your day.
Calls are hard for me.
What does the D stand for?
Like, is it dreams?
Yes, Dawn, good job. So dreams. So things like if you're calling maybe an older friend, you can talk, hey, I know last time we talked about your retirement. When do you think that's happening? Or, hey, what's that crazy vacation you're going to take next year when all this COVID stuff lifts? What are your big ideas? Those are fun conversations to have. And it gives us that struggle with small talk something to talk about. So one of your strategies on this in order to grow your database might be, to Joe's point, making, I challenge you, and I'm always going to challenge you, 100 contacts a week. If you can get 100 contacts a week, that's going to statistically lead to at least 1 or 2 appointments, and that will get you business. If you don't have business right now, if you have nothing in the pipeline, like Michael and Caitlin, I'm sure you guys are struggling right now to get your lead gen in because you're focusing so much on your transaction that's taking place. You're dropping the ball and that future business is falling by the wayside. Can we get our 2 hours a day to make our phone calls or to contact people or to go out to the store and, hand out water bottles with our information? You probably don't want to do that in 2020, but there's different things you can do to get your contacts. Not always just phone calls. The one thing that I thought of as Joe was talking about earlier that I did not put on here was a 36 touch campaign. By consistently staying in touch with our folks and having 36 touches, that can get some referral names to us, right? Like, hey, I got your email about the housing market. Although I'm not in the market, I do have a friend down the road who is interested in selling his house. You would have never known that had you not just spent the hour or two generating a smart plan for your folks.
Josh, which of the 36, like, do you have a set plan? I know there's a lot of them that are in there, but which one would you say if you don't have a specific thing you're going after, like if it's not a Facebook lead and if you're just generating off of your network of people, what one do you usually go at?
That's a great question. And I have not, since they opened up the library, I have not gone in to explore that. I get a lot of my touches around events. Joe was saying that he needs a reason to call people. I love having a reason of giving something away, like a fun time away to people. So one of my touches will be a phone call. The next touch will be a text with a link to the event. The next touch will be a email. The next touch will be a video text. The next touch will be a video email, so on and so forth. So you kind of get the feel like I generate a lot of touches leading up to the event. And that's it's more fun for me that way. It's not, however, foolproof and systematized. So it's something I need to work on for sure. So I don't have an answer for you. Use something that you're going to use. Don't use something that is so hard to deal with that you'll never actually finish it and get it set up and you just wash your hands of it. Do the things that you're going to actually do. So does this give you some pretty good insight into kind of how the 1-5 works, just at a high level? The next one for me is growing systems that encourage exponential growth. So I don't want next year, so 2021, I'm going to do 80. The next year, I don't want to stay at 80. I want to double that. And then the next year, I want to make $1 million, right? Like, I want to have really high goals. I want to have goals that are going to stretch me. Because when a goal stretches you, odds are it's going to cause you to get out of your comfort zone and do some things that you never had done before. I was on a coaching call yesterday with cappers, okay? And I felt convicted to say something because every one of these cappers and the other coach was talking about how, it's okay to have, moderate goals for your year. It's okay to, just play it safe. I said, I feel convicted to interject. I said, if your goals don't scare you, they're not big enough. Do we always want to play our lives safe and always be the same person that we are today? I sure hope not. That's not what God intended for us here. He intended us to fulfill a purpose, and we all want a purpose. And we should know that if we set high goals, that we can achieve them. I shared my story. I'm living proof. So I don't know if I've shared this with you guys or not. I've said it a couple of times. When I started this planning last year, I did one of these 1-3-5s, and I wrote down a number, and I said that seems too fair. It seems too reasonable. So the year before, I had done 20 transactions. I was like, I think I could do 30 pretty easily. I was like, 30 just seems too easy, low-hanging fruit. So I was like, I want to double my business. So I'm going to do 40. So I'm going to write it down. Did I really honestly believe it in the bottom of my heart? I honestly did not. As it stands, we are going to close at least 40 units this year, if not over 40. And we're going to meet all the other goals that come along with that: GCI, net, etc. And I couldn't be happier. And it's because I set a goal that was a little bit scary. When you write something down, it becomes real. So I encourage you guys all to, I'm not encouraging you, I'm asking you guys to please do a 135. I told you guys this last week. Over the course of November, my goal is to meet with every single one of us on this call for just a 30-minute touch base to get a feel for where you're at. When we get a feel for where you're at, I want to see your 135. Just talk about it for 10 minutes or so. I just want to know that you guys have a target in mind, a destination, because that's going to help me better coach you guys to get there. We all want accountability. Otherwise, we wouldn't be on this call. I'm so proud of you guys for attending these calls every single week. So hopefully that my little story there helps you guys, because I swear, once you write stuff down, things just start to fall into place, and you start to realize that, oh, it's not as hard or as challenging as I originally thought. That practice we did last week when we broke down our number maybe for dollars, right, that we wanted to net. We did the math and we discovered that, oh, it really only comes down to 1 appointment per week. That's all I need to do is 1 appointment per week. If you can break that down and break this whole plan down and chunk it down so that it's easy, then you'll be successful at it and you'll hit your goal easily. Running through this real quick, my priorities here, and these things could change. I wrote these things down for the sake of having an example. And please, again, don't take mine as the gospel. Do your own. There's no right or wrong answer either. A lot of people freeze up and they have analysis paralysis when they do these things, and they try to make something that's just so perfect. There's no right or wrong here. Put down 3 big important things for you this next year, and then break it down into 5 things that are going to help you deliver that goal. So for me, with growing systems, I want to attend some classes. Please know this also: education never stops. For the most successful people out there, education never stops. We as realtors get to be forcibly taught because we have continued education, right? But I'm pretty sure that the top producers attend every seminar they can on their craft, honing their craft. Joe, you've been in the industry for a long time. Do you go to a lot of training seminars and classes and stuff?
That's what I'm sitting here.
It's not below Joe, and it's definitely never going to be below me to attend a class to sharpen my tools in my tool belt. So thanks for continuing on with coaching with me forever. Number 2, follow a 411 weekly to stay organized. So this 411, have you guys ever heard of a 411? No? Some people are saying yes. It's okay if you haven't. The 411 is the son of the GPS, the 135. We throw a lot of numbers at you. It's a lot of organization, but it causes you to detail, okay, what's that one big thing that I want to focus on this year? And so, for instance, it might be the growing the database. Well, what's one thing that I'm going to focus on this month to get that zeroed in on? So maybe this month I'm going to focus on planning out my 4 events. And then it breaks it down by 4 weeks of the month. And I'll talk about all that at a future date. I don't want to overwhelm. I want to focus on the 135, the one big thing here. I'm going to also read the MREA again. That's the red book that Gary Keller wrote. It is a guide to systems that work. I'd be stupid just to keep walking by it on my library desk every day. I'm going to attend coaching calls weekly. This goes back to learning. So I have a coach. I actually have 2 coaches, and I spend a pretty penny on that coaching. And a lot of what I teach in here, I get from that coaching. That's expensive coaching. So you guys have access to a lot of really good information when we have these calls. And then I want to, because I know I'm building a larger business with additional people now, I want to have monthly correction of errors calls so that we can fix what's not working. So maybe we have a breakdown in some of our systems. Well, we need to pinpoint what those systems are and actually fix them, do something about it. Next, I want to leverage staff. I'm going to hire 5 diverse agents. I've got a pretty diverse vision for my team. So I want to hire. It's a tangible goal, right? It's something that I can actually achieve. Train the staff through 30, 60, 90-day plans. Well, I need to have a 30, 60, 90-day plan then. High level of accountability with metrics and measures. And so I need to have goals, numbers of contacts required, numbers of appointments, closings per month, et cetera. I need to have clearly written contracts and role clarity guides. And that could take me, 30 minutes one day for me to actually sit down and wrap my brain around it. And when I'm done, I'm done. I can cross this one off the list. And then lastly, but most importantly, I want to celebrate wins. I love celebrating. Don't you all love celebrating? Michael, you're going to celebrate like hell when you get that first closing, right?
Sure.
You're going to go to all the bars. Oh, you're not old enough to go to the bars, are you? I'm just kidding. I like to pick on you. Thanks for having big shoulders. So is this helpful?
Yeah. I like it.
Does it help us maybe from the mindset of having a big goal and then how to actually achieve it?
Mhm.
Hopefully. What questions do y'all have? We've got 7 minutes left. I'd like to open it up to you guys. Or what thoughts, what ahas did y'all have? I'm going to remain awkwardly silent until one of you says something.
I'll do what I like to be going to look at your real estate.
Cool. So Joe's going to utilize the library for some of our new agents.
Yeah.
Wonderful. It's a system that I'm trying to put in place. So on my coaching GPS that I do, my 135 coaching, my goal there is going to be to create systems that minimize the amount of times you guys are forced to call me because you don't have answers. I want to provide you with easy answers, not because I don't like talking to y'all, but what if I'm in bed at 9:30 and you need an answer at 9:30? I want you to have accessibility. And we know Josh is in bed at 9:30. What are some things that might be other priorities? One, 2, or 3. What could some of my other priorities have been?
Like Josh, some of mine are command. I'm being new, I'm still learning. Like I'm so excited to meet with Rachel. And one of mine is really understanding command campaigns, smart plans. I think the way that I do my systems right now, I've always said I'm like like social fun, like organization is not my thing. And I can see that being a huge issue in this industry. Obviously, I always worked where plans were in place, and so learning that we really have plans in place that I need to just learn and utilize is huge, because everything I do is Excel and print off. So like for me, that will be such a huge thing to foster growing my business, I think, and learning how to utilize some of the tools that are available to us.
That is a perfect example, Dawn, of one of our priorities that can help us achieve our business goals. You could almost paraphrase and just say technology in general. But I love that you're very specific in regards to command. And would it be pretty easy to write down 5 strategies about learning command? So maybe one of them is attending Rachel's weekly phone call.
Yeah.
Number 2 is sending out 2 Facebook ads per week.
Yeah.
Something tangible, right? Something that's an actual number that you can achieve.
Yeah, I like that.
Good stuff.
For me, the big one is the social media right now. Is getting not just posting, but from those posts, taking the information that I get, if somebody responds to just even to a picture and stuff, making sure that I'm reaching out to them, you know, even as a touch, if it's a DM to them, or if they're one of my friends, just texting to them, like you said, out of sight, out of mind. So if I'm that person that comes up, you know, I keep getting a thing in my neighborhood, people with my listing was, they're like, I didn't know you're a realtor. Well, that's my fault.
You're not a realtor. What are you?
Realtor.
Or a realtor.
You guys made me so frustrated the other week. I actually had to film and post it. Damn it. Realtor. Yeah, I love that, Casey. And you can also take the whole growing your database thing to social media, right? So we talked about how many friends do you have on Facebook currently, and why aren't you friends with every suggested friend request aside from other realtors, right? It can't hurt. Throw a friend request out to that old high school friend you haven't talked to in 30 years. Can't hurt. Yeah. Brian said y'all should unfriend me now, right? So I like seeing you guys' lives though. Good stuff, guys. Really good. That's a good call. Joe just said, hang out with people other than realtors. Can I say something and not be judged here? Why would we go to networking events where it's nothing but other realtors? Is that a good spending of time? I understand that you might co-op with, we actually have these. They're called the local realtor associations, and they meet every week. Somebody's gonna hate me for saying this, but I'll get along just fine knowing you over the phone or you know, just having a good rapport with you through doing a deal. I'd rather spend that half hour or hour out, like, you know, walking the streets and getting to know other people. Why? Okay. Brian brings up a good point. So he wants to approach property management, and the more people that knows he does property management, because there's very few and far between, the more people are going to help facilitate that business. So good call.
You're right, you get multiple offers, and I just,
All right. So networking with other realtors. Joe just said don't do it, and then he's talking about doing it. So
what I'm saying, you do both.
yeah.
That's a database of realtors, but you want to grow your database of,
Good conversation to have. Just be intentional with everything that you guys do. But moral of the story, know more people and your business will grow. That's the essential crux of real estate. KNOW. You're complicating this for me. Get to know more people. All right. I will be in touch. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, refer to the library first and then holler at me. I'll talk to you all later. Appreciate you guys.
Hey, Josh, quick question for you.
Yeah.
Hey, so I was, because I was trying to get in my DocuSign, and what is the NWMLS? Is that our office? Because it's saying my profile is not set up correctly. And also, I don't know if you know what that zip logics is also either.
I don't know. Rachel is here today. I'm going to go across the hall and ask her.
Okay.
So you're trying to get into DocuSign? Is that what you said?
So it's just saying my profile is not totally set up. So it asked me, so it did ask us for our NRDS ID, and then the association member, the only one that it showed for Ohio was the Ohio Association of Realtors. And then below that, it has the NWMLS, which I thought was our firm number, which is that 104, whatever. And I put those 5 numbers in, but it's not that. So I'm just trying to get that squared away.
Our NERDS number, NRDS?
Yeah, the NERDS number I have, but it's the other one is that I've never heard of, is the NWMLS.
Yeah, I'm not sure on that. I'll try and get you that answer right after this call. And
All right, done deal. Thank you, sir.
wonderful. Thanks,
All right,
guys.
talk to you.